The movie takes place in a respectable suburb. This is a family with two sons. Dad is barbecuing in the yard, the youngest son is playing, and mom is talking to the eldest on the phone. He is with friends and in no hurry to return home, despite the barbecue. But how can one return if he and his friend are watching adult movies on TV? The boy goes home when it is already dark. At night, this suburb no longer looks so respectable and prosperous. And at home there is dinner with guests. Dads talk about politics, moms discuss the latest gossip, interest is born between teens, and the youngest child in the family worries about their lizard pet who is not feeling well. In the evening, Dad wants attention from Mom, but she needs to work. The family is having financial difficulties. Dad is disappointed but does not insist on intimacy. Meanwhile, the children are reading a terrible story and talking to each other on the walkie-talkie, so they sleep in different rooms. Pretty normal evening. But we already know it's a horror movie. At night, the main character, Lacey, can't sleep. She checks to see if the children are okay, and then discovers the mess in the kitchen. Someone scattered the contents of the garbage bag and leftover food all over the kitchen right up to the front door. The door, by the way, is open. She just closes the door. Well done, Lacey. In the morning, from the conversation of the parents, it becomes clear that they attributed the nighttime incident to the invasion of animals. This is indeed the most logical conclusion to be drawn. The parents say goodbye. Daniel goes to get a job. He's pretty nervous. It turns out that he was fired from his previous job. Judging by the next scene, where Daniel hits the car with his folder, he was not hired. At home, he looks through letters about overdue bills, but he does not dare to tell his wife that he did not get a job. He lies that he will be contacted next week. At night, Lacey additionally checks whether the door is firmly closed, and then discovers the children's trick with walkie-talkies. But it doesn't piss her off. She wishes the children peaceful dreams, but she herself did not get peaceful dreams. Downstairs in the kitchen, she discovers a strange installation of cutlery and various other items. The door is still tightly closed. So someone from those in the house did it. The youngest son, Sammy, appears and complains about a nightmare. In his dream, a creature bizarrely arranged objects in the kitchen and then appeared in his room. And at this point, I would have already collected things for the move. But Lacey just calls the police. The police officer does not see anything criminal in what happened and writes off these events as the sleepwalking of one of the family members. Next, we dive into Lacey's work routine. She works as a realtor and shows the house to a young couple with a child. The girl has an asthma attack and her mother gives her an inhaler. And Lacey says that the eldest son, Jesse, also had frequent seizures in childhood, but over time, they completely disappeared. In the evening, Daniel turns on the alarm. In the bedroom, he confesses to Lacey that he didn't get the job and has lied to her. They are arguing. Children hear it. An alarm goes off in the house at night. Parents check the house. Daniel receives a call from security. They consider this call a false alarm since all 8 alarm sensors in the house went off. And this is practically impossible, so they consider it some kind of malfunction. But Daniel and his wife have reason to doubt it, as someone pulled the photos out of every photo frame in the living room. And after that, I would definitely move somewhere. But this family is again limited to calling a policeman, who again tries to blame everything on the children. The alarm master says that it is in perfect order. Great news, but it doesn't explain the night's accident. Parents try to talk to their children. Sammy seems to know what happened to the photos, but he claims he can't tell, because the being in his dreams asked him not to. Daniel is sure that Sammy took off the photos while acting in his sleep. He searches the boy's room. They never find a photo, but decide that their son needs to be shown to a specialist if strange situations will be repeated. In the next scene, Daniel takes his son to the playground, and their Sammy has a strange attack. And then when Daniel tries to stir him up, he starts screaming, looking at one point. It looks scary. It seems they should hurry up with a psychiatrist before the whole family needs him. Lacey finds at home a child's drawing of a very tall black figure holding a child's hand outside the house. And then one of the creepiest scenes in the movie happens. Birds begin to crash into the window glass, breaking to death. Lots of birds. Moreover, they also beat into all the other windows of the house. In the next scene, mountains of bird corpses lie around the house. Specialists collect them from the grass, while the neighbors watch in amazement at the strange sight. What are you people staring at? If I were you, I would also consider moving. In the evening, Sammy says frightening things. He does not remember how he screamed in the park. because he believes that at that moment he was no longer doing it. That is, he was not himself. Creepy, right? The parents are scared and are going to call the psychiatrist the next morning. Well, at least they're doing the right thing. However, the morning still needs to wait. Lacey wakes up again in the middle of the night. She enters the room of the youngest son and sees a tall black shadow above his bed. Lacey screams and immediately turns on a light. The shadow disappears, but the boy is not in the bed. The rest of the family runs to the scream. Everyone rushes to look for Sammy. They find him running from the yard in his underpants. Daniel catches the boy, but he again does not remember how he ended up on the street. They put the boy to sleep in their bedroom. Lacey tries to prove to her husband that she saw someone in her son's bedroom and heard their conversation. But Daniel argues that this is impossible because the alarm did not work and they did not find anyone in the room. The next day, Daniel finds a strange rash behind his ear. Meanwhile, Jesse and his friend arrange a date with the girls and smoke weed. Jesse's courtship is terrible. You can't learn to flirt from porn movies. Fortunately, he gets an understanding girl, so he even has his first kiss. He returns home late in the evening, inspired by the feeling of first falling in love. True, the euphoria is spoiled by the street lights that have turned off. At home, the parents installed cameras. This should help them find out the truth about what is happening in their house, although I still think it would be better if they just moved. Daniel remains on watch at the screens, but at night, of course, he falls asleep. But the music and suspense, as well as camera movements, let us know that something terrible has entered the house again. In the morning, Daniel rewatches the tape and finds strange noise around 3:00 a.m. The noise moves from camera to camera, as if something went around all the rooms and then went back. How much more proof do you need to start looking for a new home? Lacey is at work showing the house to another couple. This time, she is persistently trying to make a sale. But in the middle of her speech, she falls silent, looks at one point, and then goes to beat her head against the glass, and then wakes up. Phew, it was just a dream. But in the bathroom, Lacey discovers a very real wound on her forehead. And judging by the phone call that followed, the attack during the show at home was real. Lacey gets fired. Lacey turns to Google and learns that their family is not the only one who has been attacked by migratory birds. And according to some theories, it means that alien forces have visited their house. She also sees children's drawings of tall creatures, similar to those drawn by her youngest son. Daniel again goes to the interview, and this time he was lucky. He was hired. With this good news, he returns home, gives his wife flowers and champagne, and kisses her. And Lacey does not dare to tell him about the information that she managed to find out. They celebrate, they make love. It seems that normal life is returning to them again. But at night, Lacey wakes up again. The husband is not in bed. She goes down. Barking dogs can be heard from the street. Lacey calls her husband. She sees him on the street, but he has his back to her and does not respond. Lacey approaches, walk around her husband, and see his face. And when his wife tries to call out to him, his nose bleeds. He turns and walks into the house, and only in the kitchen comes to life. Daniel does not remember how he ended up on the street, but the camera recorded all his movements. Lacey tells him how she fell out of life for 6 hours, scaring her clients. She finally shares with him the discovered information about the death of birds, strange occurrences in other families, and about the possible connection between these events with aliens, and also about the missing boy in his drawing, like 2 drops of water similar to the children's drawing of their son. But Daniel refuses to believe in aliens. The weirdness continues. The next day, Sammy goes to the city pool with his mom's friend and her daughter. He has a lot of bruises under his t-shirt. The woman is trying to figure out who exactly left these marks on the boy's body. The eldest son is also in trouble. He and a friend went to play paintball in the woods, and there he had an attack. He also froze in place with his mouth open, his eyes rolled back, and his body began to shake. Moreover, at the hospital where the boy was brought, the doctor, after examining him, informs his parents that subcutaneous symbols appear on his body. Now Lacey and Daniel will also have problems with Child Protective Services. Lacey's friend, meanwhile, brings the youngest child and talks about the bruises on his body. Lacey is shocked. She has to take sedative pills to recover. At night, Daniel wakes up from a nightmare and goes to watch the video from the cameras. With the help of a rewind and freeze frame, he finally manages to see a dark silhouette in the middle of the room. It seems that now he is ready to believe that he is dealing with alien forces. They turn to an alien specialist for help. It sounds strange, but I would go for it if such frightening events happened to my family. Mr. Edwin Pollard turns out to be a rather strange person. Not without cliches. His apartment is hung from floor to ceiling with clippings about aliens and crammed with cats. Pollard calls the aliens Greys. He does a little test by asking Lacey and Daniel questions. Almost every question he asks describes some of the strange things that happened to their family. They really faced an alien invasion. He also says that Lacey and Daniel probably already have implants behind their ears. Exactly where Daniel got this weird rash. Through these implants, they establish control over people. Unfortunately, the implants cannot be removed. And now Daniel offers his wife to move. But it is useless to leave somewhere if you have an alien implant inside. Pollard tells them the last sad news. If the Greys have already shown themselves to the family, then they are ready to take one of its members. This time, apparently, they chose the youngest son, Sammy. Lacey, in another room in Pollard's apartment, discovers an entire wall of photographs of missing children and is horrified. I would be horrified too. Daniel decides to fight. He acquires a weapon. Lacey chooses the most aggressive dog at the shelter. Daniel and Sammy are boarding up the windows. The family is preparing to defend itself. Only Jesse considers everything that is happening nonsense and leaves on a bicycle. True, a conversation with his girlfriend calms him down. Jesse returns home. Now he, too, is ready to believe in uninvited night guests. At dinner, the family is assembled and nervous. The 4th of July and the sound of fireworks scares the already frightened people. Daniel invites the family to watch fireworks on TV. Television fireworks are not encouraging. Lacey is crying. Then Daniel saves the situation by remembering the warmest moments of their lives together with his family. TV starts to clutter. The Greys have arrived. Daniel takes up arms, and Lacey sends the children upstairs and asks them to close the room, and they were advised to stick together. The dog barks furiously. The light goes out. The suspense builds up as much as possible, especially when we see Grey behind Lacey. Alas, this woman moves away from the doors of the children's room. What is she thinking about? Grey simply locks her in her bedroom. Daniel downstairs is no better off. A bright light shines through the gaps between the boards, and the screws that hold the boards begin to unwind. Finally, the boards fall, and blinding light pours from outside. Daniel shoots out the window, demanding to be left alone. Someone breaks into the children's room and kicks the door. Luckily, it's Daniel. He takes the children and hides with them in Lacey's bedroom. The family is together again, thank God. A moment later, they are surrounded by the Greys. It seems that the doors are not a hindrance to them. Daniel fires again. Events change wildly. A moment later, the eldest son finds himself sitting on his parents' bed. Down in the room, he discovers his dead mother. His father shoots himself in the head in front of him, and Sammy in the corner of the room seems to be talking to someone, and then runs away. Jesse tries to catch up with him, but for some reason gets into his friend's house, where he and his girlfriend are watching porn on TV. In the corridor, he again notices Sammy and wants to touch him, but at that moment he comes to his senses. He stands alone in the hallway. Behind him are living parents and a younger brother, and in front of him, Grey. The parents are screaming, but the Greys are already taking Jesse. Later, Edwin Pollard reads an article about the parents being suspected of their son's disappearance, and sticks a picture of Jesse on the missing kid's wall. 3 months later, Daniel, Lacey, and Sammy move into a new apartment. Soon they will have a trial, but even their lawyer does not believe them. Judging by the map and the photographs on the wall, they are now conducting their investigation into the stories of the disappeared children. Lacey brings a box of toys to her son, as well as Jesse's things. She examines his children's drawings and finds aliens among them. Now she understands that the Greys have long established contact with her eldest child. And at this time, one of the children's walkie-talkies started to work in the toy box. Looks like Jesse is still alive, and of course that's where the movie ends, leaving us to wonder how the story will unravel. Summing up, I can say one thing: Dark Skies keeps you in suspense from the first to the last minute, which is exactly what we want from horror movies, right? Thanks for watching another Essential Movie Recap. Please like and subscribe.